Hey, what's up, my fellow parents? I think today's episode is going to change your life. I think it's really going to change the way you think. And that's why we're doing this, because parenting is so crazy. It's so hard. And life hits it like we have issues with our kids, our mental health, our finances. Some of us are hit with natural disasters. Like, Jordan, tell us where you're at right now and just set the tone for this episode, because we're going to focus on these awesome things. And I just want you to share where you're at right now.
Well, we're recording this at a time when the country's been hit by back-to-back hurricanes, right? And so, for those who don't know, I work at the Weather Channel. We go out and we are kind of highlighting people's stories about rebuilding, about community coming together. And so, we had the first of the two storms, Helene, come through, and it completely crushed Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, parts of Tennessee. So many states got ravaged. They sent me up in Asheville, Tennessee. It's been 3 weeks since Helene moved through, and people
Okay.
are just now getting to flush their toilet. So think
Mm,
about that for a second. When you go to the bathroom and
mm.
you got a doozy of a doozy, if you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it stinks things up, right? You can flush
yeah.
that immediately with no running
Uh-huh.
water. Obviously, you can't drink, but you can't shower, you can't clean, you can't flush, you can't do anything. And some of these people have had their toilets completely overflowing for weeks now. And so basically today I was with the fire department, and they were going to deliver these giant tanks, 500-gallon
Okay,
tanks in front of communities, filling up with water. It's non-potable. And they have buckets there. And they say, come fill them up, bring them in your house,
okay.
put it in the upper part of your tank, and flush your toilets and clean things out. This is a health hazard, right? So you can't live like
Oh
this.
my
And
gosh.
ultimately, it takes a huge community effort for all this. But be grateful for the small things. That's what I think a lot of us are going to
Jeez.
learn today, right? You want to be
Yeah.
grateful for life. Life is a gift, and you're going to
Jeez.
teach us some stuff. But I think it's hard when you have your day to day life and you're in routine and your kids are
Mhm.
screaming and they're on tech and they're talking back and you can't
Yeah.
get the laundry done. You get so frustrated. You never have
Yeah.
time to be grateful for some of the little
Right.
things.
Right before we hit record on this, I asked Jordan, so tell me about, how are you doing out there? Because he's on location and you're in a hotel room. In that hotel room, they don't have water in that hotel. Is that right?
No running water. The whole city has no running water. So basically, every business, schools are still out of session, a nonprofit, houses, you have to
Right.
get a pump and pump in
Right.
water that someone delivers to you, right? So there's an
Oh
18-wheeler
my
parked outside of my
gosh.
hotel, and they're delivering it
Right.
to the hotel. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness. So, like, we get so caught up in our own lives, our own pain, our own selfishness, our own world. We can just so easily forget all the good things we have. Today, we're going to look at science. And I've got an article in front of me that came out from Psychology Today, written by Amy Morin, who's a psychologist, and she's an author of 13 Things Mentally Strong People Do. She's a great strength author. And I really want you to think, as you listen to this episode is for you. It's just to build into you, to pour into you, to fill your own cup. And we're going to look at these 7 things that science has said that if you do these things with gratitude in your own mind, amazing things are going to happen. And this is kind
okay.
of what it is, because it's really hard to develop this attitude of gratitude, but it's like it's one of the simplest things we can do that'll increase our satisfaction, will increase our lives, will impact our parenting, our daily life. So this is a meaningful episode.
It's so interesting too because where did we lose that grace, or do
Mm,
we have to learn it? Think about it from a
mm,
child's perspective. You don't really think
yeah,
about, oh, this life's a gift and I can't believe I'm here. You're just like,
right.
what's in front of me? How can I be entertained right now? And then you get
Yeah,
older. You know what I think it is? Maybe
yeah,
I'm just trying to talk about this with you right now. Maybe
yeah,
it's like that first um life hurdle, or
yeah,
almost like closeness of death, right? Like maybe a
mm,
traumatic event, a car crash.
right,
You
right,
lost someone got diagnosed with cancer. Maybe that's when we
yeah,
have the aha of like, oh my gosh, what
mm,
we're
right.
walking miracles. Like we are
Hmm.
here, which is a gift. And then maybe
Right.
that gives us the chance to reflect, because a lot of people don't take
That's
that time.
I think that's why I asked you to open up with a little update on what you're doing with the Weather Channel, because it just, when you hear stories of other people's pain, it just helps you to remind you of how grateful you are. And I think that was a really important question that you asked. Where do we lose it? I think some of us, we didn't grow up in positive homes. We grew up with parents who were just these Eeyores. They
Mm,
were just negative, or they were complaining, or they were angry about politics, or angry to their boss, or angry in their spouse. And that's got to impact a child. And those children grow up to become parents themselves. And I think many of us, I can relate to this. We do lose it over time because the stresses of life, man, they just wear me down,
yeah.
and they have changed me over 20 years of parenting and marriage. I've just like, it's like part of me has gotten so much better and more mature and more loving as a man. But like, there's been some dark days. I'm going to share some stories about that in this today. But this is why, let's look at the research. We got 7 points that we want to storytell on and we want to impact you on. So Jordan, this is research about how gratitude has 7 benefits. 7 benefits. So get us started.
Okay. So for the first one, I want to start off with a story. Okay. This happened to me a couple years
Oh,
ago. Where was I?
okay.
I must have, it doesn't matter where I was, but I had,
Yeah.
I think, been living in the South for a while. And in the South, we have a lot of manners, right? Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Thank you, please. Right. And,
Yeah.
and in other
Yeah.
parts
Yeah.
of the
I've
country, let's
heard.
be honest, right? Big cities, you don't really have that. And I
No.
remember opening the door for someone and they just
Okay.
walked in, right? They
Oh,
walked in,
okay.
which was great because that's why I did it. But, like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
waited there maybe an extra 10 seconds to allow him
Oh
to
my
walk
gosh.
in to be kind, and it was just
Yeah.
like, no head nod, no
Oh.
thank you, no, like,
Hmm.
seeing looking eye to eye, no
Like you matter. Yeah.
acknowledgement, like I
Yeah.
was like, "Am I invisible?" Right? I'm like and
Oh.
I was like, I don't need that because I did that just to be nice, but it was
Yeah.
weird to not have any kind of
Yeah.
acknowledgement. So, our
Hmm.
first one is pretty simple.
Mm.
With gratitude, let's start off with saying thank you, right? We know this constant is good manners. Showing appreciation can help you win new friends. All right. There was a 2014 study published in something called Emotion. And that study found that thanking a new acquaintance makes them more likely to seek an ongoing relationship, right? Just saying, I
Mm.
appreciate you for X,
That's
Y,
good.
or Z. So, all right, it could be a stranger holding the door open, right?
Yeah.
Just if someone does something that is out of their way, it is so kind to
Yeah.
be like, "Man, thank you so much," or just thanks
Hmm.
in general.
We all need people. We need to be connected. And oftentimes when we think about that, we're thinking about our own friends, right? Or maybe our neighbors, people from like Little League. But I used to never talk to cashiers, Jordan. I didn't want to.
What do you mean? You went
But
up
I've
to
realized
check out at a grocery store and they were like, "Hey, how are
I
you?" You
just
just ignored them.
no, I just didn't want to do the banter, you
Okay.
know?
The small talk. You
I
didn't
just
like the
wasn't
small talk.
into it, the small talk. But I've
Okay.
realized now in my old age, like just being thankful to this person, checking in with them, how are you doing? Especially in my own neighborhood, has brought me so much more happiness. And I'm like expanding my relationships. Now, are these like my best friends? Are they going to be invited for Thanksgiving, next week? No. But it's like, this is what gratitude opens the door to new relationships. Here's number two. Okay. Gratitude will improve your physical health,
How?
right? Think
Right?
about that. How?
Because you're
How?
living maybe happier. You're living with grace, so you appreciate they say stop and smell the roses. Literally,
Right.
you kinda get happy when you do that. You're like, "Wow, like, that kinda made me
I
feel
like
good."
that you said how, because we should be saying that after every one of these points. How does somebody who wakes up every day and does like a morning devotion or a
Mhm.
morning affirmation, how is it that somebody just focuses their mind on what they're grateful for can actually make them healthier of a person? That
Mhm.
sounds wild. Well, it's true. Grateful people experience fewer aches and pains, and they reported feeling healthier than other
Right.
people. This is actually a legit report. And they exercise more often. They're more likely to attend to their health or their doctors. I just saw an interview yesterday from Carson Daly,
Mm.
and Carson Daly is almost like a for many of us, he was like a focal point of our childhood. How many of us like watched MTV with Carson Daly? It was like such a big part of like now you look at his face, he looks like me. He looks a lot older. And he said, you know what? 1 year ago, I was at the same event. He was at a red carpet event. And that was at the lowest point of my life, mentally and physically. And like, I just heard that, Jordan. I just like took a step back. Like, Carson Daly, you're getting older.
Mhm.
And then he talked about his mindset. He talked about cold plunging, and he talked about just doing intense things for his mental health. And you know what? there is such a connection, mental health to our physical health. We've got to take this seriously.
And it's gotta be hard for someone in the Hollywood spotlight like that because that industry in general is not filled with gratitude. There is okay,
Mhm.
when I say that, there are people out there that live by that lifestyle, but the reality is,
Yeah.
when you look at the greater Hollywood in general or that industry, it is blood-sucking. It'll take every
Mhm.
amount of
Yeah.
light that is in
Yeah.
you whatsoever. I
Yeah.
remember one
I
time
believe
I
you.
was on a red carpet, no, I was, what do they call that? Press junket, where I go watch a movie, then I get to
Okay.
interview the actors, and I
Oh,
was there
yeah.
with a
Yeah.
bunch of other reporters, I guess. And so we were all
Yeah.
staying in the same hotel. We all kind of saw each other at this event. And then after, there was a little bar and restaurant downstairs, and I saw these guys that were at the event. And I went and said, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, nothing. I just we were at the event and I want to say hi." And they were like shocked that I just wanted to say hi. They were like, "Where are you
Mhm.
from?" And I said, "Well, I'm from,
Mhm.
Atlanta." And they're like, "Oh, you're not from Southern California. Okay, because normally like you want something from us if you're going to talk to us." I'm like, "No,
Oh my
dude, I just want to
gosh.
say hi and get to know
Right.
you." Right?
Yeah.
Start up a conversation.
Just being grateful for there's other humans in the room and
Right?
let's connect.
Let's connect. All right, let's go to number 3. So gratitude improves psychological health. You talk about the actual health of our
Yeah.
bodies, but what about for our minds? It
Yeah.
reduces the multitude of toxic emotions. All right, think about those emotions you feel when
Okay.
you're mad at somebody or you have like
Yeah.
this victim mentality and you're just like everyone
Mhm.
wants to give me it's just it festers
Mhm.
inside of you, right? That frustration.
Mhm.
Robert A. Emmons is the PhD, leading gratitude researcher. Can you imagine having that job? I'm a leading gratitude
Uh,
researcher.
I know, huh?
Like, I'm
That's
kidding.
funny, right?
All right,
Just
so
focus on yeah.
yeah, this dude conducted multiple studies on the link between gratitude and well-being, and it
Mhm.
confirms gratitude effectively increases happiness and reduces depression, which
Mm.
anecdotally in my life, I
Mhm.
feel like has done that as well.
I got a secret to share. We're filming this and it's gonna be released right on Thanksgiving, but, about 2 months ago today, Jordan, I was in a pretty dark spot for about 5 days. Um, I don't know if I recorded a podcast on that day. I probably did because, you still gotta go to work. You still gotta do good things. You still
Mm,
gotta show up.
right.
But mentally, man, my mind was, like, being ravaged with really dark thoughts.
Where'd they come from?
Um, I was having some tension in some relationships, so I don't wanna get into the detail of that, just stresses with
Sure.
people, business, marriage,
Mhm.
family.
Yep.
And it was like this tidal wave of like dark, intrusive thoughts, catastrophizing was just coming over my head. And it was not fun, man. I mean, I
Oh,
was having trouble sleeping and I was like, what is happening to me? It was scary.
yeah.
It was
I
scary because I felt like those things could actually come true. And I felt like I'm never coming back from this. Like I've changed. Like it's never going to go away.
Because of that
Like
thought that popped up in your mind, the thought that
these
you've never had
thoughts.
before. It got so dark that you can't erase that memory now?
I can't erase the memory because I went to war against the thoughts, and the main weapon I used um, was gratitude. It was me just saying, I'm not gonna let my mind just focus on this dark stuff. I use other weapons. I used exercise. I used cold plunge. I took for walks. I listened to a lot of music. I slept a lot, and I showed up with a lot of love in my relationships, but internally I was really hurting big time.
So how as we pause for a second on going through this list, what is the difference between what you're describing, which you're
Mhm.
saying is you're fighting it with gratitude
Yeah.
versus ignoring it? Because I could say, "Oh, you mean
Mhm.
you're just ignoring it and you're not addressing the problem." So how do you balance that for someone who's going through a deep, dark
Yeah.
place? How do you know that you're actually doing good by living with gratitude versus like, "Oh, I'm just ignoring it and pretending everything's okay."
I had other weapons too. I
Okay.
called up my friend Mike and I said, can we get coffee? I contacted my buddy David, who lives in Canada. I talked to a couple local friends
Okay.
and I vented and I didn't do it alone.
Right.
And even when I was sharing with them, I was being honest with some of the dark thoughts I was having, but I was also saying, "You know what? I'm just grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you guys." So it wasn't like I wasn't going to let the darkness win. It wasn't like all dark. It was me just focusing and not letting my mind go there. Like, I'm going to do this. And this is what this science shows us here. Gratitude improves psychological health. And it did. And then thankfully, I woke up on that 6th day, Jordan. I felt a ton better. I felt like
Really?
the I'm back. The real Sean is back. And
So this isn't a clear fix. What I'm hearing from Sean, and everyone should take this is a key note here. Write this down. That living life with gratitude isn't an instantaneous fix on whatever it is you don't like in
no.
your life. It takes time,
Hmm.
but with daily
Hmm.
practice and routine that Sean went through, it
Yeah.
took him 6 days, and some people it could take longer. It's a life. I was just talking to a guy
Yeah.
at work, and they were
Yeah.
talking about me coming down and doing these stories in Asheville, North Carolina, and he's like, "Listen, we wanna really showcase hope and,
Yeah.
community." And I said, "Well, that's all I'm about. I'm all about that." And he goes, "Yeah, we know. That's why we want to send you. Unlike me, I'm a grumpy old blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No, man." I was like, "It takes time
Yeah.
and effort and a lifetime
Yeah.
to learn
It
how to
does.
live this way."
What you just said is really important. Just say that again, 'cause some people really need to hear what you just said. Can you repeat that? That was
Yeah,
really well
it
said.
takes sometimes it takes a lifetime to learn how to live this way,
Mhm.
right? You can't just one day wake
Yeah.
up and think, I'm going to look at life this way now. It takes practice. You
Yes.
write reminders. You have my
Mhm.
stepdad has a reminder that goes on his
Yeah.
phone every day at 7 p.m. And it's just an
Yeah.
alarm. And it says the
Yep.
grateful alarm. And he always takes note at 7 o'clock. He says, what am I doing right now? And why am I
Wow.
grateful? And when we're together,
Wow.
it's always 7 o'clock and we're doing something amazing. We're having dinner, we're playing a game, we're telling a story. And he's like, yep, time to be grateful. And it's a really cool reminder for him to
That
stop
is
and be
so
grateful.
cool. Yeah, yeah, because in reality, some of us have problems that are not going away.
Right,
Like,
that's
we
true.
have habitual problems. Like, these people that are in the South or been hit by these 2 hurricanes, this is not a quick fix. Like,
Right.
this is long-term pain. So our advice for them is gratitude.
Yes.
And
Find
I
something
hope
that you're grateful for.
find the joy, find the goodness. Now, here's a personal story. This next point is about how gratitude enhances empathy and reduces aggression. Many of us listen to this. We actually really struggle with aggression.
Mm.
I wrote a very aggressive email to an HOA one time. Can I tell you?
Yes, please. Gosh, they can be the
Now,
worst sometimes.
oh my gosh, I'm like, I honestly like legit have dark aggressive feelings about my current HOA right now. Like, it's weird in a sense. I think it's weird. I think it's too much. But here's the thing. True story. About like 10 years ago, I had this cool idea. Okay, my wife and I were exploring more versions of like our Christian faith and church. And so
Okay.
we're like, you know what, let's do like a little period of time where we do like a little house church in our house.
Mhm.
I'll co-lead it. I have this cool idea. And so I wrote a little advertisement to our local HOA newsletter that came out once a month. It was a really well done little newsletter about what was happening in the community. And you can run little ads. You can even like pay like $50 to promote your business. So I ran a little ad and I paid like $50. I said, hey, interested in exploring a house church? Come on over. And I had our address. That
Nice.
sounds pretty normal,
That
right?
sounds pretty fine. Yeah. What
Well, dude,
happened?
I got an email back from them saying, no, we won't run this ad. Here's your money back. We won't promote any type of religious activities through this thing. And I was pissed, dog.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
I was pissed. I felt like my First Amendment rights were being taken advantage of it. I
Yeah.
was so enraged, and I wrote them a crazy email. Like the Sean you see on my social media videos on this podcast, that's not the same guy. It was weird. I was being so weird. I talked about how my dad's a lawyer. I've got 5 uncles who are lawyers. This is so true. I told him I'm going to come after you. If you dare do this to me again, you need to run this ad. It was threatening to make a scene and like embarrass them and come after them. It was so
Did you
inappropriate.
hit send?
Yeah.
You did? You actually
Yeah.
sent it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It
Okay.
was
Keep going, please.
so
Well, and did you
yeah,
get a
that's not the end
reply?
of the
Oh,
story.
I know. Keep going.
Did I get a reply? I don't know. But I know that
You got kicked out of
the
the
next
neighborhood. You had to
the
move.
next day, I think 2 or 3 days later, through some prayer, and some thinking. Talk about it. So like, it's about religion, and I'm
Right,
sending an
and you're
email
out
like
there
that,
like, "I'm gonna
right?
sue you."
I know, dude. Such a hypocrite. So here's what happened. I sent an email, and here's what the email said. He said, "Hey,
Oh, this is a
dear OG," it
follow-up
said something like this.
email.
Yeah,
Okay,
2 or 3
okay.
days later, so I sent an email that
Yeah.
said like this.
Yeah, time to reflect.
To my neighbors in our HOA board, I really apologize for that last email. You have no right to be spoken to that way. You're community servants, and you're doing a good job, and you're doing what you feel is best. And I'm grateful that you're my neighbor, and I'm extremely sorry. I'm embarrassed that I would write you an email. My wife recently had a miscarriage about a week ago, and it was in the second trimester, and we had to do a DNC, and it was just extremely painful that we lost this child. And it's my I've just been dealing with a lot of pain and grief. It's no excuse at all, but that was not like me to write that. And I'm just grateful to have you, and I hope you can please forgive me one day for writing this email and causing you so much stress. If I did, I apologize.
That was
And they
beautiful.
sent me a nice email back saying, "Hey, we've all been there. You're forgiven. We can understand how stress can do, things to people. Thank you for writing this." And so for me, I use gratitude as a way of just changing my mind and writing an email. Like, I'm thankful for these people. These are
Yeah.
community servants, right? And that's why gratitude can enhance empathy and reduce aggression, because I started empathizing with them. Like, this could have been my parents, your parents. It could have been your neighbor.
Mhm.
My next door neighbor could have been on the board.
That's
And I'm
true.
writing a crazy email. It's like I didn't put myself in their point of view. And just by putting myself in their shoes, having empathy for them, the aggression went away.
Dude, that is huge. That took a lot of maturity on your part to do the follow-up, but how many of us have, like, yelled at someone and then felt so bad the next day or 2 days
Yeah,
later?
yeah,
How
yeah,
many of us had said
yeah.
something to someone to try to irk them, and then it actually causes more harm inside us
Hmm.
than it does them? Okay, think about
Yeah.
that. And for this next piece, I wanna ask you something. You have a whole day, right? We know how busy your schedules are. You think of the day you had and you go to bed, and right before you go to bed, you think, "Oh man, I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. I didn't do this and I didn't do that. All right, I'm going to do it tomorrow." And then you try to go to sleep. How easy is it for you to just go to sleep knowing you have all the stuff you forgot to do today that you need to do tomorrow? Right? It's going to
Not yeah, right,
mess with your
right.
subconscious.
Yeah,
You're going to
yeah,
wake up in the middle of the night. You're going to have a dream about it. You're not going to sleep well. Versus going to bed and thinking this, man, I'm so glad I loved on my kids today. I'm so glad I got this project done. I know I have to do this one, but that's okay. I had enough time to focus on this one. When I think about the good that you did while you go to bed, you're going to be able to sleep like a baby. So for this next one is grateful people sleep better, yo. All right. All right. There's a gratitude journal. Um, and if you write in a gratitude journal, like, hey, this is what I am grateful for today. All right. Do it once a week. If you're even better, do it
yeah,
every day.
yeah.
It says in a 2011 study published in something called the Applied Psychology, Health and Well-being, it said if you spend 15 minutes jotting down just a few grateful sentiments before bed, you are going to sleep better and sleep longer.
Mhm.
And everybody knows how
Yeah.
much more sleep we need because we are a country that does not sleep enough.
Yes, well said, man. It's just crazy how much gratitude is changing our lives. Here's our next point. Point number 6 out of the article, how gratitude impacts us. So, um, I think many people still in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, 50s, they actually still struggle with self-esteem at time. And if you don't struggle with self-esteem,
We all
what
do.
you
Let's
might
be honest.
struggle with is resenting your neighbor, or
Mhm.
being for what they have and you don't have, or being jealous. Have you ever thought about how that's all connected to your self-esteem, your self-worth, how you value yourself? I don't think people talk
No,
about this
I never
enough,
linked that. I
right?
mean, me
That is
wanting what my neighbor has, because 'cause I'm like, "Dang, that would be s"
mhm,
I never linked it to
right.
then me thinking, "Oh, I'm such a fool and I'm an idiot because I couldn't get to there by that age."
It's just like the 15-year-old girl looking at the 15-year-old cheerleading girl and being like,
Right.
"She's perfect. I wanna be like
Oh, and
her."
I'm not.
N
Okay,
Right,
yeah.
no, you are enough, right? So just like this is
But
like
how hard is it to be happy for someone else when you don't have the things you want?
this is where gratitude comes in because I think
Right.
that for many of us, I can't speak for everyone, but somewhere like around ages 40,
Mm.
I know it happened
Midlife
for
crisis.
me a little younger. Many people, they can become very discontent with their life and what they have. They feel like they'd be
Yeah,
farther along
right.
at age 32 or age 45, right? Can you see
Yeah.
how common this is?
Yes. Yes, that's why
Like, I
people
feel
buy
like my
sports
marriage
cars
would
at
be
that age.
right. Or they feel like my marriage would be better or my body would be this, or I feel like I'd have more money.
A bigger
And I look at my
house.
neighbor and I feel like it's, they can become resentful or jealous. Well, here's some good news is that gratitude can change all that. Gratitude can change that. Just like how a 14-year-old can really fall in love with himself and be thankful for who they are, you can be thankful for who you are, who you have, and what you have. It just starts in your mind.
Yeah, I like that. Like, I think a lot too, team sports, right? And everybody wants to be the best player. But I heard it spoken well. An announcer said at one time on an NFL, show. What am I talking about? A game, and the announcer was talking about a specific player. Like you don't hear his name much. He's not going to be the star. That's the running back that runs 200 yards in a game and scores 4 touchdowns. They're a utility player, but this team cannot function the same way
Yeah.
without this
Yeah.
utility player, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Uh-huh.
if you come to the table thinking that, right? I'm
Mhm.
just grateful to be on this team and to play with these
Yeah.
individuals. You're going to
Yep.
help that team so much more than if you were thinking,
Right.
why can't I get that touchdown or why can't I have
Uh-huh.
X, Y, or Z?
I think this is a part of the human condition. We just we're jealous of each other. We want to look different. We want to be rich. We want this. We want that. We look at Instagram
But
and
there's always
and
someone better and bigger and richer
yep.
and
Yep.
healthier and
Right.
more ripped. And you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? There's always someone.
I think that when you heard this term mental strength, um, we don't talk about it very much. We're starting to talk more about mental health more.
Right.
But it'd be interesting if you ask yourself, who are the 10 most mentally strong people that you know, and who are the 10 most mentally weak people that you know? I wonder who would be on your list. Tell me your thoughts on this term mental strength.
I think I'd have a longer list of the mentally weak people that I can
Mm,
point out than the
mhm.
mentally strong people. But you want to
Yeah,
find that someone who, let's say, gets yelled at, right, by their
yeah.
boss and just
Oh, yeah.
threatened, and yet they can still perform the duty at the level that they did right before they got yelled at. They can brush it off
Yeah,
and move on and be like, I'm fine. I can compartmentalize that, right? How many of us can do that? Because
yeah.
it impacts all of us. I got colleagues, that I hang out with, and I'm just like, man, they just said that to you, and I would have never known because they're just so
Mhm,
strong mentally. They can
mhm.
brush it off, so to speak. Do you
I
have
wonder
a
how
bunch of people that you could pick up that would be more mentally strong than mentally weak?
I think that how you would define that would be really interesting because I would define somebody who's has mental strength as not a perfect person, a person who gets sad,
Mhm.
who gets angry, who actually shares their emotion. Like I have a woman in mind and she seems on the surface very mentally strong, but she doesn't really ever go deep with people. She doesn't really like share her life or ask people about their deep inner life. I think what true mental strength is the ability to really go deep with yourself and others and to be
Interesting.
real, and be holistic, to be like a show the kaleidoscope of emotions that you go through, but then knowing how to bounce back, right? How to get through the hard times. That I think would be how I would define mental strength. But hey, I'm just one that's just one man's
Yeah, and that's
opinion.
different than mine too, because I would think
Yeah.
of like N going deep to me is good, but
Uh-huh.
dwelling on the deepness is where it can go bad. So if you
Mhm.
go too deep for too long, then I call you
Yeah.
mentally weak, and you're
Yeah,
dwelling and
yeah.
you're festering. It's like, get over it, move on, take a step,
Yes.
pill up your pain,
Right.
let's go.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
And now with this whole mental, conversation about, our mental stability, we're dwelling on it
Uh-huh.
so much that we're allowing us
Yeah.
to go deeper into the negative rather than, "No, no, you're good
So
now.
true.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Like, it's time to go."
it's making us weaker mentally. All this negativity we see on the news. This is why you could make the argument that COVID was actually really good for us because it helped us to become more mentally strong. It pushed us
Mm,
beyond our normal boundaries. And we're like, we got through it. And
right?
now if COVID were to hit again, like I want to be more prepared for that because like I worked out. It's like you exercise a muscle and then you get stronger. So I think that that's kind of the goal of growing old too. I want to be more mentally strong today than I ever have been. And even though I had this really dark period like 2 months ago, that doesn't make me weak. Maybe it makes me strong. Maybe it makes me stronger than ever because I was able to like bounce back from something so intense so quickly.
Yeah. And I think, in my family too, when I see something hurting my kids or my wife, I I ask why they're giving that thing so much power. But there's
Yeah.
this
Yep.
balance, right? You have to allow whatever it is
Mhm.
to impact you and to dwell on it so you can get stronger rather than ignoring
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
But I don't wanna
Yeah.
dwell on it. So it's
Yeah.
like this perfect amount that
What a dance. Yeah.
we don't know how to all of us are different, but we have to balance that
Right.
dance in our own life.
And this is where gratitude comes in. The seventh point on the article is gratitude increases mental
Right,
strength.
right.
So here's a couple closing thoughts, everybody. We all have the ability and the opportunity every day to cultivate gratitude. Just simply take a few moments to focus on all you have, not what you don't have. Don't complain about the things you think you deserve. This attitude of gratitude is one of the simplest ways we can improve our satisfaction with life. And the
Mm.
happier we are, the more joyful we are, the better parents, the
Yeah,
better leaders, the
yeah,
better lovers, the better
yeah.
spouses, the better business people, the better we are. And that is just very exciting. So for that, I'm grateful for gratitude.
And I'm grateful for miracles because let's be honest, you could be grateful for yourself. You are a walking miracle. Your heart is
Hmm.
beating every day. You don't have to tell it to do it. Your lungs are taking in air every day. You don't have to tell it to do it. You're literally a walking miracle. So take care of your temple.